What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Coach Joe Strong, here with another powerful episode of the Business of Strength podcast, where you can hear the tips, tools, and interviews to turn your passion for strength into a profitable business you will love. Just a friendly reminder, September 18th and 19th is the annual Strongest Year Retreat in Scottsdale, Arizona. This is our marquee event of the year. We end each year with a bang right before the fourth quarter gets going, so we can help gym owners from around the country get clear on their goals, get clear on their mission, get clear on their numbers, get clear on their people and systems, and dominate the fourth quarter leading into the new year, leading into 2026. I got a special guest with me here today, none other than Joe Pearson from the Strength Feed in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Joe is a member of our Strongest Year project. That's our private consulting group, and he is nominated for Gym of the Year this year. Congratulations, Joe. I'm excited to have you on. We're going to interview you for Gym of the Year today.
Thank you, sir. Excited to be here.
So Joe has been with us now for just about 2 full years. It'll be 2 full years right around the time of the retreat. You joined right before the retreat last year, 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And Joe's had a really remarkable couple years. And to give everybody a little backstory, we've talked to Joe before. We've had Joe on, a variety of he's interviewed on some of our stuff. You probably heard him. We've talked about him on the podcast before. We've talked about his gym and his people before, and throughout some of the various YouTube videos and things like that. But I met Joe through a mutual friend at SummerStrong, at Sorenex SummerStrong. And that mutual friend, who's also in our consulting group, Anthony, was like, hey, I got to introduce you to a buddy of mine. I've met him a few times down here. I know he's got a really great gym, but he's kind of all over the place and struggling a little bit to make the personal income that he was looking to make. And he spoke really highly of you. So Anthony introduced us. We got to chatting. It was already the end of the night, so the beers were already flowing. So we were yapping up a storm about just training and the business and so forth, and like a lot of things, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, Joe, but I think a lot of times when people introduce me or Dan or Adam collectively as the Business of Strength to any of their friends, and they're like, hey, these are my friends, they do like gym business consulting, like they can help you. I think there's always like a hesitation and a reservation around opening up your book, if you will, to a bunch of other meatheads, because it's like the admission of maybe that something is wrong. Mm-hmm. And two, it's also can these guys help me? What do they know? And I think as meatheads, it's inevitable that we kind of measure each other by our bench, our squat, and or what have you done business wise? What have you done in the realm of whether it's sports performance, adult pop, how many gyms do you have, things like that. So, and I think I don't want to say you were, I don't know, I don't want to say standoffish because you definitely weren't, but
hesitant.
Hesitant.
For sure.
And the conversation ended all right, well, I'll call you, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't really hear from Joe for a year.
In May.
Yeah,
so it was the same year, but yeah, it was
same
months.
year. I didn't hear from Joe for months, right? Mm-hmm. And I'd sent him some stuff, and we had chatted a little bit. And the one thing that stood out to me when we were talking was that Joe has a big facility, and his rent's relatively high for let's call it you're in an affluent area, so the rent's pretty high. I think you're somewhere in the $8,000 a month range. $10,000 a month range. So that's a real rent, right? That's not you can't go 3 or 4 months, making no money, and that rent's going to accumulate fast, right? Yeah. So if you don't pay that, obviously you don't have to be a math wizard here to know that at the end of the year, if you're struggling and you're paying your rent, but you're not paying yourself any money, you're in the whole $120,000 before you even make a cent, right? So just for context there. And when I ask Joe, I always ask every gym owner the same question, tell me what you want to make, what do you personally want to make that makes this successful? If I could wave my magic, wand and give you an income. And Joe was like, if I could just make $60,000. And I remember just being like, Joe, what are we doing here? What do you mean $60,000? You got a wife, you got kids, you got a house, you got real training experience. You got a real degree. You know you're not 22 fresh out of college too.
Right.
I mean you're not
Yeah.
not like you're 50, but you're like me. But you're not a kid, right?
Yeah.
And and you had kids and you have a wife, and it's like, all right, at some point there has to be like a reasonable expectation that I'm going to go home with a couple bucks, right? And again, it doesn't have to be $500,000, $1 million a year, but I always said, if we can't make $150,000 doing what we love and with something that you're totally passionate about, well, then I have to question the validity of like, are we doing the right thing? Should we even be doing this, right? Because I look at, there's a lot of jobs out there that gym owners, and this happens a lot in the industry. I'm sure you've seen a million people come and go over the years who were, you either went to school with or knew that were going to be like exercise science, going to be strength coaches, or who were out of the industry, who were
Tons.
right, they became salespeople. They went to insurance, they went to accounting, whatever, right? Because the truth is that to make $100,000 nowadays, right? I mean, technically, you could go get a job for UPS and drive a truck. You could go work for freight. You can own your own route. You go get a Thuman's route and make $100,000, right? So
I think the best response was you're like, well, just quit and come work for me in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
I went home and was like, hey, Grantland, you want to move?
She was like, no, no, it's 3 times as expensive here. Even though your area is catching up pretty quick in terms of like,
it's getting there.
Yeah, it's a nice area. So anyway, we left Joe at Summer Strong with that, and again, Anthony had, asked me a few times, has Joe reached out? Has Joe reached out? No. And then we got to the end of the summer, and finally I got a call from Joe, and he was like, hey man, like, I took some of what you said, tried to do it on my own, and really, I'm spinning my wheels here. I need some direction. I need some guidance. So Joe joined the group. We came out to our retreat that year. We started off really well, and a few, we'll talk in a second about a couple of the things that we did immediately, but a couple of the bullet points that I wrote down that were top of my notes here, Joe, were like the biggest things to me, and this is very common. So I'm doing onboards for 2 other gyms that have recently joined the group right now, and we see this across the board. Lack of clarity on the overall mission, like who are we and where are we going? I know that sounds ideological and like some hipster, like we're gonna be the best gym in the world. I don't even mean it like that, but be really precisely like how much money are we trying to make? What type of services are we offering? When we talk about clarity on the mission, we're not just talking about your ideological, like to be the best gym in the world. We're talking about more specifically is what type of services are we running? What's the capacity of the business? Like, all right, you have a larger space, so it's like, okay, is it 6 people a session, 8 people a session, 10 people a session? Are we running small group, large group, one-on-one training facility? You have to have. If it's everything, it's nothing. If you have no idea, it's nothing, right? So if we're just trying to do everything, so I think like a lot of sports performance gyms, you had done a lot of sports performance. We started dabbling in the adult fitness realm, but it really wasn't like something that you put a tremendous amount of time, energy, and focus on. So it had always like sputtered a little bit. You had a couple adults.
I mean, COVID fried it, and I didn't want to come back and do. I didn't want to train adults. At that point in my career, I was like, I'm done. I'm burned out from the adult side of things. And growing that back from, there was something there, relying specifically on me and my coaching.
Yep.
But growing that back from essentially nothing after COVID was just a nightmare and a headache for me, and I didn't want it.
Yeah, and I think, look, it's like everything, and you know what you know, so you kind of the path of least resistance. Let's just stick to what we're good at, and what we know, where we're comfortable, and that's training athletes, right? And you guys had built up a pretty good reputation in your area for training athletes. So it's like after COVID, it's like, fuck it, let's just train athletes.
Yeah, exactly.
They're easier in a sense. In some ways they are.
In a sense, yeah.
And in some ways they are, right? So there was a clear lack of mission. Just kind of we were all over the place with the products, the services, the prices, and so forth. Employees. That was a big one. That was number 2. Number 2 is bleeding energy. Number 2, we always see where you were classically, and I did the same exact thing, kind of, I don't want to call it gifting jobs, but like gifting jobs to friends and people you knew, other coaches that kind of came up with you, and it was like you weren't hiring based on the accountability chart and what the organization need.
Correct.
You were hiring people that you thought might be a good fit, that you could mold into a need, into a role. And what we find a lot of times is that we're trying to fit square pegs into round holes. You have somebody who's like maybe a good coach, but doesn't have any other business skills or want to work within a business. Maybe they're like a lot of the people you had. They had 14 other irons in the fire. So it was like I trained some people here. I'm doing private stuff here. I'm still with Travis. He's like I'm still trying to get on an NFL team. So you kind of had like a lot of people doing part-time work in a sense. So that was one thing we had to reel in. And then lastly, it's just, extreme clarity on your numbers, on the economics of the business. How much money can we generate with the model we're trying to put on the gym floor? What do we need to make? Right. What are my monthly,
no idea,
quarterly, yearly, kind of numbers, and then we could backtrack to a weekly scorecard. So, and we didn't have that. So the very first thing we did with Joe was, and I hate to have to bring the hammer like this sometimes, but one of the very first things we did is, dude, you're gonna have to let go of some people here, right? And we had to fire a few people and restructure their roles within the company to get more out of them, and to offload a bunch of dead weight. So we did that. I never want to talk bad about employees who've left and gone on. It's just it's at the time.
The reality. It's
at the time. Are they willing and able to fit a role that the company needs? And that's really, when you look at it objectively, it's are they going to be a company person, right? And fly the strength feed flag, right? Are they going to produce something for the company that's managerial based, maybe above and beyond the training floor? They're going to help sell. They're going to help do referrals, whatever it's going to be, marketing, and then are they in a sense, going to help lead the other coaches and the other people in the company, right? And sometimes it's just a no.
And it wasn't like I just went home and took a torch to it. We had the conversations. Hey, this is what the business needs now. This is where I'm being guided. Coaches need coaches too. And so when we finally came up with those numbers and those, KPIs for the roles and things like that, it was like the option was then led to the coaches that we had on the table. And it was like, hey, do you want it or do you not? Yeah. Can you do this?
And it probably made it a little bit easier. For sure. It's like, look, this is what the company needs. I know this is a lot different than what we had maybe talked about or what was, but the only way I'm going to dig myself out of this hole is if we get people all doing shit.
Yeah.
It's not, and showing up to train 3 sessions and then checking out and bouncing and going to another gym or going to a field to do some private training sessions wasn't the best thing for the strength feed.
Correct.
Right? So one of the problems I want to highlight here is one of the classic problems that gym owners have, and that's the lack of clarity on pay scale, payroll, and developing employees. You had a bunch of people that were doing a bunch of work, but nobody was really working for Strength Feed full-time, giving it a real effort. Talk to me about how you extrapolated pay and decided on some of the pay that you were providing for these people, which we obviously identified as being like a pretty extremely high for what you were getting out of them.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that, or was it classical, like I'm just kind of guesstimating here?
Yeah, I think I started with a number that again, this is before any kind of business acumen. So I think I started with a number that I would be comfortable at coming from where they were coming from.
Right.
And if I was in their shoes and I was getting interviewed, this is what I'd be asking for. And so I started there. And then, we did a standard 3% raise every year or something like that. And, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with, they were just coaching. That's all we were, and it just wasn't enough. And, when we sat down in December of 23, I mean, on the P&L sheet, seeing 60%, almost 60% of your gross revenue going out the door to employees just tanks you. And I just didn't know, there was numbers, there was bodies in the gym. It was always busy, from the front, it looked fine.
Yeah.
But on the back end, it was not. And so when Dan said the clarity and you were like, hey, It never goes over 33%. We have married ourselves to that number. And when we took a step back, January of 24, I essentially told the coaches, really, Travis at the time was like, you can make whatever you want to make. Like we had some back and forth, but to make that, this is what we have to make. And we're only going to make that if, you're only going to make that if we make this number. So we were able to kind of back ourselves back into some decent salaries with the coaches based strictly on gross revenue and profit.
Right.
So
and
really
I think
helpful.
the realization that, like, whether you're a coach or not, look, there's no such, in a modern small business gym, in my opinion, there's no such thing as just a coach anymore.
Correct.
If all you want to do is coach, it's going to be really tough.
Colleges are right there for you. Be an assistant.
That, or you're just going to be in a place and, you're just very limited at what you're going to make, because it's just the reality that you see how much sales has to happen now that you've married to it, now that you've gotten the business acumen, and you see, like, how much activity has to happen every week just to stay afloat, just to stay above the attrition line, let alone to actually, like, add 50 members to if you want to go plus 50 for a year, and you already have, like in your case, you already have 300 members, people don't realize that you have to sell 150 memberships to even come close to doing that, right? So it's not because you're outpacing attrition, then the additional 50, right? So people forget that, right? So, I think, like, the days of just showing up, banging out 3 or 4 sessions, collecting $30 a session, and then bouncing. If you're going to be an employee, those days are done. You have to be able to garner reactivations, referrals. Now, obviously, you're using digital CRMs and contact systems and stuff like that too.
Shout out to Mike Lisi.
Right, exactly. So, but and what are some of the other big levers? So, big lever obviously was payroll and getting clear on that and the mission. What about the marketing? Talk about some of the marketing stuff in the beginning.
The marketing has essentially been a little bit of a tornado. It's got its ups and downs. We took 24 to be like, let's figure out what we need to do. Let's pull a bunch of different levers and kind of see what works, and then it'll give us a calendar for 25. So we didn't have that in 24. It was like, what do we run next month? And we all sat down, me, Travis, and Kelly sat down and was like, let's do half price drop-ins. Let's do this. Let's just see what hits and who has a good idea. And we used the BOS group for a lot of those ideas, even if it was just a stepping off point. Here's everyone else's Black Friday deal. Let's make one of our own, right? Here's everybody else's Memorial Day meltdown, fall back to fitness, whatever. Let's make one of our own and brand it ourselves. And so that's where the group played a huge role in setting our marketing calendar and kind of rolling the carpet out for us. When it comes to the things that have hit, our Black Friday deal is good. Our mom's group has done really well. Memorial Day meltdowns, our 6WT, which we had never done any before. And then we have one in the fall as well that's done pretty good. The number one thing that we have done more recently, and this was kind of sparked by Dan, was like starting to push our weight around. Like, we've been in the community almost 10 years now. I have. And the name strength feed is about 10 years old. And so, just getting the legwork in and calling coaches, whether it's every week, bi-weekly, hey, we got a speed camp coming in, send your kids. Hey, we got this going on. You want your little 10-year-old to come in and train for free, come on. And then we get his high school athletes or something of the sort. And then the internal selling, which we never had anything of that before, not necessarily just to get upgrades and stuff, because our pricing structure is a little bit differently, but internal selling to get people at the happy hour, internal selling to get people at that. We just did a volleyball, like, met at a park, and there was 15 people there, and they had a great time and things like that. So those are probably the top 5 that we pulled.
No real community marketing.
Correct. We had none.
No focus on back end, like defensive sales, reactivating clients, asking for referrals and stuff like that, actively, not just passively.
Right.
Okay.
We've always been a referral machine, and so adding that has really taken our marketing to the next step.
Talk to me a little bit about that. So, like, what's the difference between, like, you said we've been a referral machine, but what's the difference between, like, in a sense, just passive referrals and, like, waiting for clients to get you referrals, and then actively putting referral opportunities out in front of people?
We do a $50 referral for all the athletes, which is done pretty well. over the course of the year.
So when athletes come into each new block, they get an opportunity to refer like a $50
$50
discount.
friend.
$50 for their friend, and they get a $50 discount or something like that.
Yeah, if their friend signs up, but we've just been handing out cash, which works the best. Sometimes.
I mean, look, with a 17-year-old leaving the gym with $50 in his hand, he's like a millionaire.
We've had a couple kids that are like, I'm bringing 5 people in, and I'm like, have at it, bud. You want to make this a hustle? Do it.
That was Dan. That's how Dan and me got started, like business-wise, because that first year that he came to train with me, he was delivering Chinese food for a local Chinese food place. And I get in Dan, I forget what we were doing, but I got in the car, and the car stunk like, lo mein or something. It was like 10-ingredient lo mein. I'm like, Dan, what the hell? Why does your car stink like Chinese? I deliver Chinese food. That's how I make money. I was like, bro, you want to make some real money? He's like, what do we got to do? I was like, for every kid you bring me, I'll give you $100 cash if they sign up. He's like, really? His eyes lit up. Next day, he shows up at the gym with a car loaded full of little kids. His little brother and all his friends. He like kicked him out the gym, out the door. He's like, get in there and train, you bunch of bums.
That's awesome.
And that was it. And he started like bringing me kids, like strong arming kids and all the parents and people he knew to come train. So that works really well. I think that's a big. The number one, if you ask the industry-wide, every private sector gym owner, trainer, coach, what's your number one marketing tool? They're going to tell you word of mouth, referrals, right? But then again, having some real action steps behind it and having like measurable and memorable and repeatable moments. Again, they want to every time a new athlete signs up at the Strength Feed, they get a $50 reminder. They get a coupon and a $50 reminder. When we run our 6-week transformations, hey, if you bring a friend, your transformation's free. Things like that. Buddy week, you still do train with your teammate weeks. You're doing bring a friend workouts and things.
Just got done with a buddy week.
Just got done with a buddy week, right? So the difference here for those listening is that this gives people like landing points. Hey, my gym's running this on Saturday, or hey, next week you can come to any one of my workouts. Would you like to just come with me? And it makes it easy for members to just say, hey, come train with me and my team. Come train. We're all going to the lift next week. You got to train too. So to bring a teammate or, for one of your adult members to bring their wife or husband or whatever, it makes it easy for them. Talk to me a little bit about the numbers now, Joe. So, then and now, let's do a little compare and contrast, revenue percentages, right? And membership now. Like your adult members when we met, what did that look like? It was pretty much non-existent. I think you had like 6 left or something.
I want to say it was lower than that, like 3.
Maybe you had
one injured lady who's still the best, but and then 2 others. So
where are you at now?
Pulling up offensive sheet since I've ran that through last night. We're at 134 total athletes in the door, 73 total adults in the door. So grand total 207.
207. Great.
I think the highest we hit this summer, 213.
213 so far, and that was just mostly like as the fluctuation with the
athletes, muscle
right?
Athletes this summer.
Yep. And like a lot of sports performance gyms, you get a pretty good influx in the summertime of all the way grammar school to high school, but also your college kids come.
We had 38 signups in May.
38
high school, college athletes.
Yep. That's great. That's
26 again in June.
And so what products are we selling to our adult fitness clients now?
So we sell essentially 2 things. It makes it easy for 3 if you count private training. So private training, we do our adult performance package, and that's like an unlimited training, unlimited contact, accountability, goal setting meetings. I mean, we kind of throw the bag at them. They're 6 WTs. They get automatic access. They don't have to pay anything extra. They get a free one-on-one session with a registered dietitian we have on staff. So we kind of just throw the bag at them. That's $400 a month. And then we have like a simple 3 times a week training package where they get none of those benefits, and they just come in and train 3 times a week for $300.
Okay. So obviously for $100 extra as an upsell in a sense, they get a lot of extra value with that. Right?
Yeah,
a lot of extra accountability and unlimited training. So you can go from 3 times a week to 5, 6 if
5,
you want
6
to,
if
if you want to come,
yeah.
right? You guys are a 6-day-a-week shop, right? You're not open on Sundays.
We're not open on Sundays. Right. Not really on Wednesdays in the morning, at least.
Okay, not yet.
not
yet. We get to 90, 100 adults. We're gonna have to open up that Wednesday.
We might have to.
That's it, kicking and screaming. Yeah, and it's tough, all right? Because people forget that as for small business owners, as you're building and growing these businesses, you're also building and growing your own family too, right? Mm-hmm. And people forget about that stuff, right? That you're in a similar boat. You got little kids too.
Mm-hmm. 1.5, right? And 5, just turned 5.
Exactly, right? So the need to do stuff as a dad, as a husband, right, is pretty high. It's not like your kids are 20 and they're off in college, right, and you just you're growing this business and nobody's bothering you. Like there's a lot of extra dad work that has to get done too, and I think that's something that gets left out in the entrepreneurial journey. We forget about that. Like you look at our group specifically, more than half the people in the group are families, right? Mm-hmm. So and they're all in a similar boat where their kids are probably all between babies and 10 years old.
Yeah.
And, I'm definitely still the oldest person in the group. So and I have one of the younger kids. So
right.
I think Noam is the only one who's close. He's almost the same age as me. Getting old, Noam.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to me about the athletes now. So what's obviously your athlete population has grown, but more than growth, because you always had a pretty good athlete program. You've restructured it a lot, streamlined times and schedule, mm-hmm. increased prices a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about the athlete program and how you're specifically for the gyms out there that do sports performance, because there's a lot of them who are either A, not maximizing their adult population and not really making a lot of money, which you
right.
are now, and or B, still having a really tough time kind of squeezing two things together. So what have you done to synergize the two programs and streamline the athlete program so it's still super profitable? It's still your bread and butter program. And at this point, I think your company is still roughly 60-40 or 70-30 athlete to adult revenue.
Yeah, looking at numbers last June or this past June, we did 33 in athletes and 14 in adults.
Okay,
so it's getting
yeah, it's still getting there. So, but it's almost about 75%.
Mm-hmm.
Adults. So talk to me about some of the things you've done with the athlete program in the last year.
So with the athlete program, like you said, we streamlined times and created a really, really good program that took me and Travis probably 6 months to come up with. And we can get into the programming later because I'll just keep talking. But really good program. We got it on the board. We got Team Builder. Working with that. And so we have the fundamentals group, which is our late elementary, early middle school. We have our development group, which is our middle to early high school, and then our advanced program. And we simply just kind of divvy up the kids according to their testing numbers when they come in and get an assessment. So it makes it really easy for us. You could have a junior who's never worked out before. He might be in the development group too. So we kind of base it on skill. With our fundamental and development program, we just moved, and this was Trav's idea, to just an unlimited. You pay for $240 a month, and you can come as many or as few times as you want, and that has streamlined selling really easy. Mm-hmm. So you either pay.
Do you offer a down sell? What if I can only train once a week?
You pay drop-ins.
You can buy a package or whatever.
Yeah, we've if we really want the kid or something, we'll sell a package at a discount, but we're just hey, come in and do drop-ins. You pay $40 a class, and we did $2-3 grand off drop-ins last couple months.
We
we
still do some packages. We charge a ridiculous amount for them, just because of obviously it's not our best business-wise, it's not the best product we want to sell, but we realize that obviously just kids are all over the place, so some parents just feel more comfortable buying a 5-pack or a 10-pack a session.
We've done really large packages. So dad came in and was like, hey, can I buy a package for the summer? And I'm like, yeah, it's 20 sessions and I'll give you $5 off per set. And, you might as well be paying the drop-in. But, we've done that a couple times. But we do that, and then we break up our advanced group per the days you want to train. So we do 2, 3, and unlimited. And prices go up from that $240, which also helps with the selling. So if you're in the development group and we can upsell you and say, hey, little Johnny's been doing a great job. I think it's time to move him to advanced. If he wants to add a day a week and go training 3 times a week from development to then 3 times a week in advanced group, it goes up $40. So the bottom dollar 2 time a week advanced is the same as our unlimited fundamental and development groups.
Okay.
So it's streamlined. It doesn't need any more tinkering. It's really
no. I mean, because the schedule. I mean, one of the things that we looked at a lot was the schedule was kind of all over the place. I did the same thing where you say yes to everything. So you got athletes all over the place, guys, girls, team training. You had a lot of teams kind of blocks all over the place, big old chunks. And one of the things that Joe was doing, he's still doing a little bit of, but not as much, was running all 90-minute sessions for the athletes. And, we've streamlined that to 60 for a lot of the younger kids and stuff like that.
Even less for the fundamentals. We do 45-hour. Now it's the advance is still an hour.
The advance is still 90 minutes.
College ends up being 2 hours too. So
we were just, dude, we put it. You know what? Honestly, maybe it was just an ego thing because we always thought we'd be done in an hour, and I don't think we ever finished one college workout in 15 years in an hour.
No.
You know what I mean?
I put it on the calendar as an hour and a half, and it turns into every time.
Once every few weeks when we'd have a deload day and we'd do a recovery day, maybe we'd finish in an hour. But that never happens. So that's great. And where now from an attraction standpoint? Obviously, we know word of mouth is still a big part, but what are some of the things you're doing now on the attraction side for athletes? In your what are your biggest marketing tools for athletes?
We've been pulling the special teams lever a lot. So going out, our special teams is getting out in the community. Mm-hmm. Can we call a coach and do a free talk? Can we collab with a local skills coach, and which we did recently with Marcus, the basketball trainer that hit. I mean, our social media went up almost 100,000 views in a week.
Oh wow!
So we've done a good job doing that. And then Trav's been working the defensive end. Every kid that comes in, hey, you got a brother, you got a buddy, you got Trav runs our defensive score sheet, and he does a phenomenal job. But the biggest thing, kind of take us back to what you said, is we're operating them as 2 separate entities. Yeah. So as much as you want, the vibe is you got an athlete that trains, and we train mom and dad and everybody else. The back end side of things, the business side of things, is they have to be their own individual programs if you want them both to have equal amounts of success. Mm-hmm. So Coach Tom is our team lead for the adult performance, and he has done, exceeded all and every expectation. He does a phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. Our internal events average more than 50% on every, showing up of attendance every time. He does a great job. He brings energy. It's just fantastic. And then same thing on the other side with Trav, but they are their own, roads essentially.
And you have your own, in a sense, your own, each individual marketing calendar, their own financial goals and stuff like that.
Correct.
And you've separated them out on your P&L so that you could see clearly how much money the athlete department is generating versus the adults, where when we started, and like us too, it was all just one. And we just we're making X. Yeah. It's all right, well, how much the athletes? A lot? I don't know.
Yeah, we bleed together. One-on-one training, we still do some open gym stuff, which is kind of getting fizzled soon. And then our assessments is one big chunk, so we can see what we get from those as well. But, the ownership, essentially what you guys call your community leads up here, is done by 2 directors, one
department
on each,
heads.
two department heads. Yeah,
that's great. And some of the, obviously, one of the things that you guys do that I thought is a real unique differentiator for you guys is that you guys run testing combines.
Correct.
And you run them for both your athletes and your adults. Mm-hmm. And you do them twice a year, I believe?
We do them once a quarter.
Once a quarter. Okay, every quarter now. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about that and what that is and just kind of how that fits into, obviously, the strength feed, where you come from, your performance background, and so forth.
So our original dogma is that, being athletic doesn't necessarily have an age tied to it. Yeah, you might not play team sports anymore, but, if we walk down on any standard gym in the country and talk to the first adult that might be in their training, when's the last time you sprinted? The answer is going to be 10, 15, 20 years ago. Who knows?
A long time.
A long time for a lot of people. And you never know when that may be required of you, or for fun or whatever. One of our Penn, the one that I come see up here in New York, his dad raced his daughter for Thanksgiving, about blew out a hammy. So mom's been in training lately. I'm like, all right, when's dad coming? We need to make sure he doesn't blow out a hammy in Thanksgiving again. So, that's our mantra, and that's what we preach. Being athletic is important. We can go through all the exercise science stuff behind it, but power output and strength, and
sure,
it's not just about being strong and mobile. It's about being able to apply that force quickly and be a more robust person.
Sure.
More injury resilient. So, right now we've got a good low strength blended conditioning block going on with the adults, and they're jumping and running and doing our man box testing and testing their verticals and 3 steps. And, for the most part, everyone has, 100% buy-in. They want to see their numbers get better. We've got a really good record board with athletic things on it. It's not just squat, bench, deadlift. It's what's your flying 10, what's your 3,000 cal, or 3,000 meter row. It's a big, long board of everything that we feel is important to make a well-rounded athlete, regardless of age.
And I think it's just become part of your, I don't know, a community standard too, part of your culture, right? Where it's just something you guys do. Because people listen and might say my adults would never want to do a vert or a 3-step or whatever. And that's totally cool. Whatever. Maybe that's not part of your culture. But obviously Joe's gym was built on, similar to Varsity House, where it was built on athletes
and being athletic
and being athletic and looking athletic. And you came from a collegiate coaching and athletic background. So it's just like us. So I think that those things kind of we have the record boards here. We still like to see our adults train like badasses. We want them to do cool shit, right? And
we had a great thing the other day. It was I was sitting there with Tom's class, and somebody else was coaching it. We just hired a new coach, and he's coaching it. And they're going through base skips and straight leg bounds, and they're building it all into sprint work. So you're flying in 10, 15 yards, and then you're sprinting another 10, 15 yards. And we looked at a class of almost 10, and every adult looked good doing it.
It's awesome.
And we're like, wow, what other gym can say this? For 30 minutes, we just bleed their dynamics into some sprint training.
Dude, I'm stealing a class. I'm stealing a class Friday and taking everybody to the hill. We're running hill sprints.
Right.
It says there's going to be 16 blown Achilles.
So it was just cool to see, I can say definitively, which that there's no other gym in Raleigh doing that. And there might not be another gym in North Carolina.
No, look, Jim. Joe. I obviously, have been interviewing and working with gym owners from around the country now for 7, going on 8 years. I've probably had hundreds of people in our workshops and masterminds. There are only 2 gyms that I know that do that with their adults, and you're sitting in one of them, and the other one's yours. You know what I mean? And independently, I think we are one of the few gyms that test adults similar to athletes, where we have similar testing protocols, and we want to see them achieve numbers. But I think it's done something really well, and I think that so other gyms might be. This is a cue for all the other gyms who are not doing it. You don't have to do what me and Joe are doing. You don't have to vert and broad jump people. But
I would suggest not starting.
I would probably suggest not starting with that. But the reality is that one of the bigger problems in the adult fitness space is the lack of goals to train for, and the lack of real tangible outcome based goals. Where when you were training for sports, or when you got when Travis was training for the NFL, there's a clear, I need to do this to get to this. Right. So the motivation and the intrinsic tie to numbers and progress is there.
And output.
Right. Output. Where and that 50-year-old mom who's just trying to look fit and fitter or lose some weight, when you ask her, what are some of your goals? I just want to lose weight, right? They don't really have a lot of tangible goals, right? So by helping them set some tangible training goals, what I think happens is that you show them kind of like making sales calls, right? When I have to show gym owners that, hey, the leading indicator to making sales is picking up the phone, right? There's something has to happen before the sale to get the sale.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? Well, if the sales don't happen magically, there's no they just pop up in a piggy bank, a magic piggy bank that just fills up full of money every day. You have to do something to get sales, and usually that is a phone call, a text message, an email, right? That's the leading indicator. Well, the leading indicator to losing 10 pounds might be showing up to 15 workouts in a month, doing 10 extra push-ups every week for 4 weeks, and you start off with 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, whatever it is, right? But giving some training metrics, I think, helps people fall in love with the process of training, and they start to see that as my push-up numbers go up, my waistline numbers have gone down, right? As my row numbers gone up, my cardiovascular, my energy feels better. I'm waking up with energy. So you start, it becomes less about, there's something else than the scale, and that's really, for athletes, we have a list of 20 different things that we're measuring other than the scale. I only weigh my athletes maybe 3 times a quarter, if that, like beginning, middle, and end. But we're metricing their performance KPIs on the training side every week, right? But if the adult, a lot of gyms forget about KPIs with their adult fitness, and they're just working out, right? And I think that's because
it's the same answer. It's like you said, I want to feel better, I want to lose weight. Like, yes, like what are you doing to get there, right?
Yes.
And most of them are not comfortable being uncomfortable. Like any person that walks in the gym and you're like, all right, there's a 2,000 meter row, they're gonna be like, whoa. We're like, here, we have a 30 cal test on the bike. We have a 50 cal with the kids right now. And you could just tell.
The worst test known to man.
Yeah. But some kids just, we're getting 6-7 minutes. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, it just takes a tiny bit of effort. Like, just get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it's much worse with the adults, especially when they haven't done athletic-based things in a long time.
I also think it's exposure too, right?
Yeah.
I mean exposure in a bad way, meaning that they're worried about being exposed.
Yeah.
Because if I say to Joe, I want to lose 10 pounds, and then Joe says, all right, Joe, I'll make a bet with you. I'll give you a free month, or I'll give you back $100 worth of trainer, whatever it is, whatever deal you got to make with your trainer to hit the goal, right? But a lot of times it comes, all right, I'm going to make a deal with you, Joe. When you raise your hand and say yes to getting help.
I need help.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. I think the majority of hesitation that we get is because of the exposure. Because one of the very first things that happens, it's like, all right, Joe, I need
figuratively get undressed and let's see what's going on.
I need your last 12 months.
You need what?
Yeah, exactly. I need your last year's P&L and tax returns. I need your.
I think at the time I didn't even know what P&L stood for. So the biggest thing about signing up with you guys was, you're a gym owner, you get it in your inbox daily. How many get 50 clients in tomorrow? I can do this for you with this sales script or whatever. I have hundreds of emails waiting for me in the inbox of all the time.
Yeah.
Of guys selling snake oil, and maybe some of it's not snake oil, but their emails sound very like snake oil, and it's always if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But I think the likability of you guys and me coming off the high of summer is really what initiated the phone call that was like, all right, I'm up Schitt's Creek, but I need the help.
Well, look, again, for clarity purposes, people listen. The difference between the differentiating factor for the Business of Strength and what we wanted it to be when we started it was we wanted to be a one-on-one consulting group where you had, let's call it, you have one-on-one training and semi-private training for your gym, right? And it's a combination of the both. When you sign up with us, you get a little bit of both. You get some fun group stuff, group calls, group accountability, events, things like that, and a great group of other gym owners. But the bread and butter with us is the one-on-one calls and accountability and the SWOT analysis and just kind of creating a plan to follow over the course of that first year or so, where I think the access that we give is unique, where a lot of other gym consultants, you don't have 24/7 access to emails, calls.
We've tried this snake oil before in the past with little to no avail, and most of the time it's here's a cookie cutter marketing plan with some emails you can send out, and they never work. And so the one-on-one coaching that we get from you guys is that it's like, let's make this work for the strength feed. We realize you guys are not a Varsity House, you guys are not a TS Fitness, what can we do to make this central to North Carolina, in the market of Raleigh, and with your business and your brand that you guys as coaches have taken the time to understand, on a personal level. It's not just, it's your weekly call, let's go through, this is what we did, all right, here you go. It's like, what do you have going on in your life? How are your kids? You know, like it's a personal thing. And so that's
I think I think like a lot of groups are just big marketing groups too. And it's like, I don't know, like I feel this way sometimes to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm speaking for you, but I go to some events and I'm like, I don't need any more fucking marketing ideas. I need higher level strategy ideas.
Yeah.
I need somebody to tell me which one of these ideas to run with and how and do, like which one,
or the follow through.
Yeah.
Like, great, you gave me a bunch of emails and a bunch of ideas. It's like, how
did
do
you
I
rewrite them? Did you put them into a plan? When are you executing?
Can I compartmentalize this to allow the staff to execute better? You know, like that's the next step stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. All right, let's talk about staff. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, obviously, in the course of the year, we've gone through, or 2 years now, we've gone through a different staff. We've had some staff that we started with. We have a new staff in place now who are, some of them are people that you've had around, but you now have a really awesome group who are doing work in the business.
Yeah.
And you have Travis, you have Kelly, and you have Tom, who are all contributing mightily, not only on the training floor, but on the business side.
Correct.
So much so that, Kelly is almost she's still training a bit, but her training role is actually pretty reduced, and she's mostly doing the marketing.
Working to reduce it more.
Reduce it more. So talk to me. I got a couple of, we'll go a couple like 1A, 1B here, but like 1A is, how do you think, getting the business moving in a positive direction, having clear focus on goals, money, accountability, how do you think that that's helped you attract better people?
I mean, I think, and people will differ on this opinion, but I think a big thing of hiring is like, is this somebody I'd enjoy having a beer with, right? So you have to have a level of that to enjoy the people you work around. And we all spend time outside the gym with each other, have fun at events and things like that. I think that starting with Travis, which was like the domino effect to everything else, sitting down and having clear conversations with him and me having the background knowledge from BOS Group on what I can say yes to was the biggest factor. And, when we sat down the first time, we were so far off on numbers. Like it was shocking that neither one of us got offended, like that's how far off we were. And instead of getting on the defensive, either side, like we both went home, talked to our spouses, and we were like, all right, let's sit back down again and figure out like how do we make this right? And so with Travis being an athlete first, and I got to train him first, it made the conversations much easier. We were friends, and even better friends now. And so that was nice. And then we got through those conversations and rolled into the new year and probably about April of that year of 24, Kelly came along, and we both recognized like a super high achiever. Not only on paper does she look just like a complete all-star. Our conversation was really good. We went and had coffee and grabbed a bagel, and we were like very matter of fact. We were like, we don't know what we're doing this year. We're kind of figuring it out. Like we have a plan. Like we're throwing fastballs, but there's nobody back there catching. And Kelly was like, she took a risk, and I guess everybody just kind of sat down and took risks together. But I guess we presented a good enough argument for her to be like, yeah, I'm in, and more of the year goes by and things are rolling, and we had a little bit of dead weight on the staffing side of things from a coaching standpoint. A person we enjoyed working with, but was not rowing with the ship, and not working it at their level, which is kind of unfair expectations, but it's what the business needed at the time. And so we had another hard conversation. We brought Tom in, I think around October of that year.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. And just was a all-star from day one. And it just so happens that he's a 6'6" former offensive lineman from Kansas State. So like I like that side of him. Travis obviously played at a high level. Kelly played at a high level. So it just worked really well, and we meshed really quickly. And we saw, again, like he had to interview with me. He interviewed with them. We all came out. He was our first interview, first Indeed posting a real hire. And I was like, this isn't right? You're not supposed to hire the first one you interview, And so I went and took another couple interviews, and then we came back to town. We were like, we got to pull the trigger. So that was really good. And then John is our most recent hire, who's going to come in throwing punches. He's coming from college, another football player, big guy. Really excited about him, just super positive attitude, great on the floor. I mean, every time, obviously, you do a new onboard, like expectations get clear, communication gets better, things like that. And so really excited to have John on now too, to kind of complete this staff for the time being until we can start beefing up some of the numbers we want to.
You know? I mean, I think, you said you almost couldn't believe it, obviously, that you were excited, get the opportunity to hire these quality of individuals. But I think, we went back and talked to our spouses, you said, and we kind of took a chance on each other. But I think there's a saying that I always like is that people buy people, right? So, obviously I think you having a high level of conviction in what you're doing and passion for training, right? And then, you were missing one of the key components. You were just missing the clarity component. And once you got that, I think your attraction, piece went way up because people were like, all right, I always knew Joe as like a really passionate, strength coach, gym owner, but I don't know if I'd go work for him because I don't know if I could ever make any money there. But once you had that clarity and once you could see how the business numbers and the metrics of the business tie into growth and revenue, it's really easy to sit down with a guy like Travis, who's a numbers guy, who's an athlete, who's a competitive guy, and say, hey, man, very intelligent, say, hey, look, here's how it works, right? If payroll's 33% and we get to this, you get this.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's for black and white, dude.
Yeah,
it's pretty much this. So if you like coaching and training athletes, this is the role.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do some of this stuff. We're going to help grow this thing. And it's like, all right, great. And it's like, all right, for a guy like him, it's like, all right, now I get it. He was sputtered around trying to get himself onto an NFL team
back on a roster.
It's like, all right, do I do that or do I just plant myself and make a commitment? He decided to go with the latter. And I don't think anybody does that unless –
there's a level of trust.
Yeah, you're the right person, dude. People buy people. That's something to say about something. There's something to say about you and what you've built, and don't take that lightly. Because
that's a thought I hadn't had.
Because I think Kelly. From obviously, I don't know Kelly as well as I know you, right? But I've spoken to her and taken many calls with her, and she's super smart and sharp, and I think she could easily, have gotten another job somewhere and got work somewhere.
She could have made double in a hospital working, diet stuff for ICUs and things like that.
Oh, that's miserable.
Yeah, that was her thought too.
That's miserable. Yeah. So great. I mean, and I think you guys have put together a great team. So just talk to me a little bit about their roles now, specifically. Give me, the quick cliff notes as to, what's Trav doing? He's in charge of your athletic. He's your performance director.
Yep, he's the performance director. So he's in charge of really everything, but his focus is the athlete side of things. He runs our defensive scorecard. So is everybody enjoying the product? He runs our scheduling. He runs the trainers, right? So if things need covered, things like that, it goes through Trav. People need schedule changes, it goes through him. And we're still pretty small relatively. I mean, Adam and John definitely beefs up the stuff a bit, but any teams that want training, anything, that all goes through Trav essentially.
Okay.
With some help. Coach Tom does everything on the adult side. So he does the programming for the adults, the annual cycle, we're working to him taking over the goal setting meetings every quarter because that's been in the past me. So he's rolling through some of those right now. And pretty much anything and everything numbers based is his focus on the adult side.
So he's running the defensive scorecard there too?
Yeah. Travis sets things in motions, but Tom does a really good job of, making sure that we're getting the score sheet is literally adults athletes. So
and is Tom and Travis, they're both in charge of doing like assessments and like
really Tom rolls with assessments. Travis will jump in when he is needed or specifically requested for, But Tom doesn't see the athletes during the week. He only trains adults. We rotate weekends, so he'll see the athletes at least once a month, but he has no interest in training the athletes. So he feels like if he gets to see them on their entry, he knows their name, they move on into train with Trav or whatever, he still gets to know their name and say, hey, it's Coach Tom. Hey, Johnny, how you doing? Which I think is really forward-thinking of him, where he rolls through. I think
some FaceTime.
Yeah, some FaceTime, just so that every kid knows every person by the time they've been here a week, you know. And then Kelly's our Swiss Army knife. So her role is marketing. But her main title, she trains, anywhere from 10 to 30 hours a week, depending on what's going on with everybody else. She's been our kind of like backfill.
Right.
Trav's gone for 2 weeks
you've used. I was just gonna say, I know you've used her a lot for fill-ins, like when Travis has had vacation or whatever. Yeah.
He's leaving for Spain in 2 days too, so we're gonna use her again. But we're trying to get. She champions like our female athlete population and adult. So she's running a mom's group 3 times a week that we're kind of trying to offload some hours so that she still shows FaceTime. She also has like 6 one-on-ones because she is the person that comes, like if there's a need, an injury, somebody that needs to train, my wife trains with her. So there's just multiple times where it's like nobody else can take him but Kelly, you know?
Right.
So she's got kind of stuck in a lot of those things. And then the female athlete group in the afternoon, she champions that. We got 1 team training hour, 2 team training hours off of her for this coming fall, but she'll still have some FaceTime over there with the Canes. So we're working through some scheduling things to either block or block out her days so she can have some more creative time and think about the marketing.
Sure.
Because that's our next
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, how important has it been to have somebody focused on real marketing? I mean, obviously in the last year, just actually have like a real person doing real marketing
things, and the consistency of what we've been able to put out has been, better than anything, obviously, and sometimes you don't get to see like the ROI, right? It's not like we put in $100 this ad and then you signed up 3 clients. Like that happens, right? We've got 5-6 leads. We're doing a speed camp in like 2-3 weeks in August at a park, so offsite, and we're selling it like $45 a pop unless you're a client and you can go for free. But she's had like 7-8 signups for that, and we're using some Google ad spend credit that we've got. So like there is a return.
Sure.
But when you look at the numbers from like last summer to this summer, we're looking at essentially almost doubling our entire gym population. Like we're seeing 130% growth in a lot of places. Last year, just looking at June's, we had 15 to 20 development kids. This year we had 44 at our highest week.
Wow.
So we're like doubling that population. It doesn't just come from marketing, but the marketing is that constant touch point.
Sure.
Maybe we saw them at a camp or maybe we saw them at the school, but they know our name because they've seen it for 6 straight months on Instagram or whatever it is. Right. So,
and now you're using a combination. Obviously, you guys are doing social media. You're doing some ads. You're doing email campaigns. Your community marketing and like sponsorships in the community and things like that. Events in the community, 5Ks. I know a lot
did
of
a 5K,
did a bunch of things like that. So kind of hitting all the branches of the marketing tree in a variety of ways. What's and obviously building out your defensive scorecard for the referrals and reactivations to be a big part of the gym marketing too. I think that's for me that's like the lowest hanging fruit of any gym. It's like, well, how many members you have? 100. All right, well, let's just start asking all 100 people for a referral this week, and we should be the numbers say we should be able to get 20 of them, right? So if you've never asked for a referral and you have 100 members, you should be able to get 20 the first shot, like for that first month, right? And then obviously after that, the goal is like our goal is 20% a year. So however many members you have, you get 20% a year. That's a good goal. Same thing on the reactivation level. If you have 100 members who've left the gym in the last year, we should be able to get 20 of them back in the gym at some point in the next year, right? So it's kind of just, but that only happens if you have those lists.
Ask.
And you're keeping track of that. So many like a lot of gym members, like a lot of gym owners rather. Did you find yourself forgetting about those people and only focusing on the new people, right? And like getting new clients.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously putting together, the Ignite, and being able to have a list to go off of was huge. Like other than that,
awareness precedes action, right?
Yeah.
So it's all of a sudden if you have this lost member list on your CRM every time you pull it up and you see it growing or you see names adding to it, it's like hard to hide from it. Where like when we were doing it old school years ago with like the old notepad, and we were just like, we didn't even look at lost.
Right.
Literally, if you would ask Dan and I, like, how many people have left the gym? Like, nobody leaves.
Right.
And we're like, it's like, no, dude, somebody had to have left the gym. I was like, no, nobody. Well, him, but he was an asshole. Fuck him. No, like, you would make excuses for all the people that left your gym. Well, fuck her. She wasn't a good fit anyway. You get mad at them. But the reality is, if they're not paying, they're not members, and it's like they're on a reactivation list, and then every member you have is an opportunity for a referral. So those are the two spots I think most gyms should obviously start off with. So we made it to 25. We had a really great year. We got a great staff in place.
Yep.
What were some of our, every quarter, every year, we do our year-end planning meeting, and we try to help all the gyms set our big, like, objectives for the year. What were some of the big challenges for 25? What were the big items that you wanted to conquer this year?
I knew we needed to hire another staff. I didn't know when, where, what time, but we had to even out some hours off my schedule, off Kelly's schedule, a little bit off of Travis's. He works a double a couple times a week.
Right. So you guys were getting to the point where like you had built it up to the level you could, but you as the business owner can't always be the pressure valve getting thrown back into 20 sessions a week, right? So you got to be able to continue to lead the ship, drive the ship in a sense. Travis is already maxed plus a lot of the times. Kelly, not on the training side, but on the business side, was maxed plus.
Yeah, just not having a solid 4-hour block of time where she could do a lot of quality work.
Okay.
Like 30, she'd have an hour here, an hour here, an hour here, and that was a mess too.
So hiring somebody was a big need. So we did that now. We have John, right?
Yep.
And John's starting off. And what else was a big roadblock this year?
I think like because 24 felt so fresh, like we saw big numbers. It was like, oh, all right, like that's easy, but like hesitant to the next year. Like no way we're going to see those numbers again. If we put the same amount of effort in, why not see those same numbers? So like having some clear goals and talking to Dan about those, we went with a 10% growth is like, I guess, standard and kind of what everyone hopes for, right? We used our same number from last year, which was 20.2 and percent growth that we did from 23 to 24. So we put that as our medium goal, right? Can we double it? And then we put a high-end goal like 25, 27%, something like that. Right now we're on pace. If we pace the same growth from quarter 3, quarter 4 last year to this year, we're on pace for like a 35% growth this year, which is huge.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. So I think realizing
the team strength is going to be hitting some bonuses this year.
Yeah. So we're on a 620,000 estimate with our goal being like it was like just around under just to the high end of fives. It was like 595 was our like low end growth goal. I think we can get close to 650 this year.
Yeah. If anything else, what were some of the roadblocks like in the way? Like what were some of the things like that you had to shore up on the business side to help clear the runway in a sense?
I think more clarity from my end. Making sure everyone knows their roles and at the beginning of the year I was running all the score sheets. So we divvied those up. So now Travis is, defensive, I'm offensive, Kelly's special teams. So now we have metrics on our social media, and we have things that we can play with to make changes on the social media side of things, which when I was running something like that, like we didn't know, it was just like, oh, what are we selling this week,
Yeah.
And she's like, I need posts, I need stories, I need this, I need that, because if we do those things, we can see 4,000 more people reached. And adding some getting a consistent paid advertising budget was probably, I would say, one of the biggest. So
I take that a step further. I mean, one that I was thinking of for you was just the action, finally having an actual like 12-month marketing calendar where Kelly put together a really pretty looking too, because it looked nice. It was all done in a calendar. But like actually and whether you stick to it at 80%, 90% or whatever, it doesn't matter. You actually have a plan and you have something on paper to go off of it. And you're not just shooting from the hip every week, right? So I thought it was a really well thought out plan. I know you've executed the majority of it, but like our plan's the same way. We ad lib, and I'll change stuff, add stuff, delete stuff, elongate some things. I think
we only shifted one thing so far. It's like that fall 6-week challenge that we talked about.
And you're adding that, right? That's an addition.
We bumped it up a little bit because I don't remember the reason why, but I remember our conversation.
Just from the
we made it happen. Yeah, timing issue.
Yeah, I think we just moved it away from Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Exactly. Yeah,
because we want that to hit big time again this year.
Great. Last couple questions, Joe. What are some of the big mindset shifts going from the year one kind of shit vulnerable, like I got to pay these guys more money that I don't even have to help make money that I don't have, to your mindset today, like and where the excitement and the change in mind shift towards from, like you said, reservation to excited to grow.
I think the two biggest ones for me is getting more comfortable not knowing something, right? Like I don't know marketing well. So like getting uncomfortable and being okay with like going to learn more and reading a book that's written by Dan Kennedy and not Louis Simmons, right? So I think that's a big shift for me, is like it was easy to just be like, oh, I'm really good at training. Right, you should come train here because I'm really good at training. Like no one gives a shit, and so I needed to get better at doing that. And the other thing is like being a little more selfish in myself, right? Like understanding that I need to make some money here. If you guys want food on the table as well, like I need to bring some home too. Or else, like, what are we doing this for? Right. And everyone can go home, and I'll go work in tech and make $1 million a year doing sales. Like, I'll go work for my wife in NetApp. So, I think that selfishness has definitely helped me out a little bit. That's kind of a word that people have a negative connotation with, but being selfish and realize like this is what we need to do so that I can provide this for everybody else was really a shift for me, I think.
You have to fill your cup up first, as the put your air mask on first before you can help other people, right? And I think it's the same analogy why you see a lot of gym owners kind of or even individuals with their fitness. They tell them, well, if you want to get fit, why don't you just do it first thing in the morning when you get up? It's like, oh, they make excuses, and it's like, I'm tired, I want to get up early. I get the kids in the morning. It's like, all right, we'll get up at 5. Like, oh, it's too early, right? It's like, all right, well, things don't just happen on their own, right? So that like you said, that filling your own cup up. At the end of the day, in a small business, the owner operator is at the top of the pyramid, right? And kind of shit runs downhill, as they say, right? And if you're unhappy with your career and the money you're making, the likelihood that anybody else underneath you in that downhill spiral is going to be happy is going to be
even
almost
if their
zero.
number is large. You know, like it's just the people around each other. You guys sync up, and
the energy, the vibes,
yeah, for sure.
And look, everybody wants to make more money, or at least. But the reality is that if you're not making any, it's a pretty tough struggle. I see a lot of gym owners like passing up on pay. I've done it many times where it's like, hey, we can't take payroll this month, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, like if I just walked into Dan's office today and said, hey, Dan, next month we can't take pay, it'd be a fucking real problem. Like, it's like, wait a minute, wait, what do you mean? Like, I got bills, I got shit, I got a mortgage, I just bought a new car, whatever it is, you know what I mean? People have lives that continue to move. So I think I don't know why in the gym world or in a lot of small business operations, we give to the clients and to the staff, and you have to take for yourself too. And it's not being selfish; it's being realistic. With it. Yeah, a business has to pay its owner operator a decent living.
Right.
Let me get what are 3 book recommendations that you'd recommend to all the B-head Louis Simmons people? No offense to Louis and the gang over at Westside, but like if you fall into the category of I've read 100 training books in the last year and 0 business books, and you actively right now own a brick and mortar gym or training business, what would 3 good books be?
So 2 of them just came from you guys. So Dan Kennedy's, I just blanked on the name.
Almost Alchemy?
No, the other one, the No Marketing BS one.
Oh, No Marketing BS.
Yep. And then Avoiding the Stupid Mistakes would be my 2 business ones that I've read most recently that I think I got a lot out of. Dan Kennedy's really cool and definitely helped me understand the whys behind the marketing. It didn't give me this is what you need to do. It was like, this is why you send an automation, because at some point somebody raised their hands, they want to hear more. Like maybe down the road they're going to sign back up.
Sure.
So that one's cool. Avoiding the Stupid Mistakes. And then, of course, I've read Triphasic too because, you know, you're setting me up for that one. But, yeah, you got to. And I think, everyone can know everything about training and programming. But I think for the gym owners out there listening, reading something like that shows you how much little you really know about training.
And that should be. I look, if you're a competitive person and you're a real entrepreneur, that should excite you.
Oh yeah.
I got excited. There was 2 moments where like we could have packed it up. One after we hired our first coach and we flew out to Louisville and hired Pat Rigsby, and we flew home literally feeling like we knew nothing about business and we were absolute morons. But we were high-fiving and smiling because we finally had I finally had some clarity. It's like, all right, now we know what we don't know. Yeah. It's like, let me go out and figure that out. Right. Yeah. And then we had hired another coach about 7 or 8 years ago now. 7 years ago, I think. And during that meeting is when we had kind of started already poking at the idea of changing our roles, Dan and I, and Dan moving to CEO and me moving to more strategic marketing sales, kind of like running the business side, being more of the visionary. And at that meeting, when that happened, the people in the meeting thought it was very adversarial, like, oh my God, those 2 are done, like they're going to break up and we're never going to see them again. And it was the exact opposite again when me and Dan were literally I felt relieved to driving home because I was finally I had some clarity as to maybe why things weren't going well. And then when we did a breakdown of Dan's personality and work skill set versus my personality and work skill set, and you put it on a board and we made a list of all the things we love to do and all the things we hate to do, it was clear as day that we were in the wrong roles, but it was kind of just I was the CEO because it was my business. I started it and I was older. So it was all right, great.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of ego in all small business where it's if I'm the owner, I have to be the CEO. If I'm the original founder, it's not, otherwise it's not my business. And I never thought like that. And then again, I think for a lot of gym owners, knowing what you know, that should be exciting. I get just as high hitting PRs in the P&L and in the bank account or making a great sale or signing someone up for the strongest year that I did for getting a PR in the gym. It's the same thing. They're just different PRs, right? And, now I can live vicariously through my other young coaches who are still all excited about coaching and learning new tools and things like that. So, all right, last question, Joe. What's on the horizon for the next 6 months? What are we expecting out of the strength feed? And you're on pace to have your best year ever.
Yeah.
Numbers are great. Team is solid now. What's the future look like?
We're checking all the boxes. So I actually I hope the coaches have gone over this before they listen to the podcast. But I just adjusted all of our target numbers.
You're hearing it here first, team.
Going into next year, or going into really quarter 3 and quarter 4. And of course these are averages throughout the course of the year. But our goal has been 183.75 clients in the door across the board. The coaches want to get rid of open gym. That's fine. We're bringing on another person, so more bandwidth for some personal training. we're looking at new target numbers being at 245.
Okay.
And so that's the target we will be going after for this fall. I'm going to be, again, probably first time. Well, Travis has got an idea, but I'm going to be stepping a little bit more back out of the training, at least fixed hours where it's like you have a 4 o'clock every Thursday. And, give myself the ability to pick up clients here and there and like pick and choose according to time. I'm really good at return to play stuff. So I think I still want to have a role in that. It gets my creative juices flowing with programming stuff and things like that. And then I've got some, our angel list. I got, our long-term, probably longest tenured 2 clients still are on my books, and we'll keep them there.
Okay.
But yeah, taking a little bit more of a step back to step harder into doing the community things and reaching out and going to lunches and really moving more of our weight around because I can follow up with it. So
working more on the business instead of being like in it.
So John's gonna help us out with that. A lot of the things I see is like on Monday I'll send out like 5 text messages like to coaches, who wants to do lunch, and then they get back to me. I'm like, shit, all my lunches are full. What? Like I didn't even have a chance to get one of them in. So. There's the Dan Kennedy book.
Yeah.
No BS marketing. Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think that's going to be, and then, last year, Q3 was our biggest number, and it's due to our Canes contract. And so what we're doing this year on the P&L sheet, most of those contracts are from August to essentially March the next year. So we're gonna bleed that into the P&L sheet instead of seeing it 1 month. We're gonna do it over the course of the months they're paying for that training, even though they're prepaying it, and we're gonna see what it does to numbers. Our projected number for Q3 is $190K.
Wow.
So we're going to see what we can do without those contracts, right? Like we'll still put the month in there that it's training for, but without the huge lump chunk.
We want
to see what that does, and we're still training teams, and we're just, to a certain extent, we're not going to get out of it, but we're going to see where we can add some hours, see where we can fluff up some things, and really build out the fall with our fundamental and development stuff. If we can keep those development number kids high, we'll lose football, but like what off-season kids can we get in and train? And then finishing out the year strong with adults. Our goal has been 50 for 2 years now, or we've been, we're at 46 right now. So as soon as we got it close, I moved it up to 75. So we're going to see how close we can get to that number by the end of the year.
Awesome.
And get some more adults in the gym and keep rocking that in that fashion.
Awesome, man. I think we do something similar. We don't count the team training as part of our sales goals. They're they're obviously on the revenue.
Right?
They're on the revenue, but they're extra. I don't metric them and count them towards our overall sales scorecard just because we might not get. It's almost like getting. It's almost like a corporate bonus. Like you can't if you count that towards your guaranteed pay, you might set yourself up for failure because like next year you don't get your bonus, but you're like, oh my God, I thought I was going to make X amount of dollars, and now you're kind of screwed. So that's kind of how we always thought of it too. It's
and it ends up being a discounted rate and things like that. They're not paying full price, and it's the same thing we do for like our packages. If we sell 5 for $200, we don't count that. They're not a member. They're still considered drop-ins to us.
Exactly. So they're on trials.
On trials. So same thing for the team stuff. It's like, if we can do 1 or 2 sessions a week and a preferred time for us, what are we going to see from them in the off season? That's what we're looking for. Is like how many of those kids will sign up for full price training come, March when they're done with hockey,
Joe, tell the listeners where they can check out the strength feed and get in touch with you guys, check out what you guys are doing.
Email's super easy for us, coach@thestrengthfeed.com. We all get that. And then follow the website, thestrengthfeed.com, and our Instagram, which is pretty cool. Kelly does a really good job on our Instagram, which is the Strength Feed. So.
The Strength Feed. That's Raleigh, North Carolina. Joe Pearson, the Strength Feed. This is the business of strength, helping you turn your passion for strength into a profitable business you will love. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Awesome.